Hello, beautiful soul. My name is Yulia, and I'm the voice of the podcast Love to Heal. This podcast outlines my journey from atheism to Judaism, exploring spirituality from diverse perspectives. It is my hope that my journey will inspire others to embark on their own adventure of self-discovery and spiritual growth. Thank you for joining another episode of Love to Heal podcast. I'm pleased to introduce Katia Bolotin. She is a Torah educator, speaker, and writer who inspires Jews of all backgrounds. Her thought-provoking lectures and articles show the enduring relevance of Torah in a changing world. She focuses on personal growth rooted in Torah's wisdom and practical ways to cultivate and sustain it. Katia is also a pianist, songwriter, and composer of contemporary classical music. Welcome, Katia.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Yulia.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me. We have so much to discuss today. I'm very excited. I love that what you do today is you make Torah relevant to today's world. And I think this is where we'll start. I know that you have recently published a book, so perhaps you could tell us a little bit about your book and also weave in how you came to where you are today.
Oh, thank you very much. First, we'll plug my book. It is called Making It Relevant: Timeless Torah Wisdom for an Ever-Changing World. The book that I wrote, with God's help for sure, is a book that I wish that I had read when I was 17 years old, 18 years old, at this time when I first started my journey exploring Torah Judaism. The reason why I wrote the book was it gave me a sense of putting things into perspective, recognizing that what people really are yearning for in our world today, which is so divisive and fragmented, is a sense of some greater unity that puts all the pieces together of not just our life, but the global world and what's going on in it. And Torah is that missing link. It's oftentimes the most overlooked, crucial, essential ingredient in life. And why is that? I thought to myself, as I would spend hours in thought before I would write anything, I kept going over my own personal journey, how it led me to becoming an observant Jew, or as I would honestly say, a striving observant Jew, because nobody is a finished product. But I know who I am now, without any doubt. I don't feel the slightest desire or need to be anybody other than what God made me to be, which is rooted deeply in Torah.
Yes, I love hearing that because part of my journey that I share with my listeners is how I overcame my anxiety of 20 plus years. I realized later on when I began to study the Torah, I realized that I didn't know who I was. And
Exactly.
this missing piece of my identity was not allowing me to live up to my potential. It was creating a sort of void in me, and I didn't know how I could fill it. Was it money? Was it fame? Was it traveling? I tried plugging so many things into that void, and nothing fit, and nothing left me truly happy until I started to study the Torah, until I reconnected with my roots, because I used to be an atheist before, and then I found God, and that connection with God completely cured my anxiety. So I know exactly what you mean about identity.
You know, it's interesting, Yulia. Many people say and claim that they found God, and God is created in many images that man has made. And there's many religions that connect to God. But as a Jew, and as a Jewish woman in particular, there is a path that leads us to that void that nothing can fill, as you said.
Yes.
Shopping, beauty, acquiring beautiful things, traveling, renewal, constantly needing new things to feel
Yes.
renewed. It's a phenomenon that every woman, most women I know, I shouldn't say every, but the majority of women experience, and we are left with a sense of emptiness in a short while after we acquire any new experience or thing. And
Absolutely.
unlike other religions, first of all, Judaism is the source of every religion. And the fact that we're privileged to have been born as Jews, and any other human being is also invited to explore the wisdom of Torah. But specifically, women like you and I, and all Jewish women, it's very unfortunate that many of us know so little about our birthright.
It's true. I know. I mean, for me, I grew up in Soviet Union. It was atheism was the way or the highway. So
That's right.
I didn't have much choice. But when I immigrated to the United States, and actually the Jewish community helped us settle in, and that was my first point of contact with a Chabad center.
Yes.
I didn't even know what a synagogue was to begin with. And at
Wow.
first, I'll have to say, at first, I was a little bit intimidated by the women in long skirts and the head coverings and this and that. So it took me a little while, a couple of decades to get to where I am today. But that was my journey. I guess I had to go through it. But now that I am here, I could not be happier. So now that we mentioned how important it is for women to connect to their roots, especially for Jewish women, perhaps you could talk about the upcoming holiday of Shavuot and feminine
Yes.
spirituality.
I would love to. Before we do, though, I do want to give a shout out to someone who's no longer physically in this world, but the impact she made on the Cleveland community in which you live. That is Rebbetzin Shula Kazin, who is the mother of Devorah Alevsky and the grandmother of Miriam Greenberg, all people that you know, integral parts of the community. Mrs. Kazin was phenomenal. She and her husband, Rabbi Zalman Kazin, they were two powerhouses that did everything they possibly could. They lived and breathed the Russian community and did all that they could, raised funds, and used their own four hands as a couple to do anything they could to provide all of their physical and spiritual needs for decades.
Wow.
They
Yes.
should never be
Thank you.
forgotten.
You're right.
Yes.
Thank you.
I come from Cleveland originally, so I knew this and experienced it and saw what they
Yeah,
did.
that's amazing.
Anyways, you had spoken about the feminine experience that leads us up to Shavuot. So may I start?
Yes, please.
So first I'm going to ask you a question, and I think you don't know the answer because very few people know the answer to the question I'm asking, which is, what was the name of King David HaMelech's mother?
I feel like I just read this with our rabbi.
Oh, good.
It wasn't Ruth, right?
No, that
No.
was his great grandmother. The
Okay.
name of David HaMelech's mother, which really don't feel uncomfortable. Most people don't know it, okay? No matter how long they've studied. Her name was Nitzevet. Nitzevet, the daughter of Adel. Why do I know this? Because she embodies the entire female journey. And it was from she that King David and Malchut, the kingdom of David, was created. However, let's talk about her. First of all, Nitzevet and the whole story of David is shrouded in mystery and is very controversial because her pregnancy with David at the time was considered illegitimate. That's why he was so looked down upon and he was so maligned by everybody around him. But the truth of the story was, his father's name was Yishai, Jesse. He was the leader of Israel at the time. And there was a misunderstanding about whether someone who is from the line of Ruth, who was a convert, could marry someone who is a native born Jew. And this constantly was being debated. At the point, Yishai felt that he could no longer stay with his own wife because she was a native Jew, and he descended from Rus. He separated from her, but she loved him. So her handmaiden, who in those days there were concubines and so on, was supposed to be intimate with Yishai, Jesse, and she traded that opportunity to his actual wife. They were never formally divorced, but they were not living together. I don't know all the exact details because I wasn't there, but so the story goes. And that was the night that David was conceived, but he didn't even realize who he had been with. Can you imagine?
Wow.
So all of the years that they saw her, first her own sons and her own estranged husband saw her burgeoning belly, and she never told them what happened. She didn't reveal the truth of her secret, which is something amazing to imagine, the endurance and being able to just hold that inside. And as a result, she and her son were despised, looked down upon. That's why he became a shepherd. Yeah. And she didn't live in the household with her husband and sons. It wasn't until the prophet Samuel, was searching to see who the next king of Israel would be to replace King Saul. And he went to the home of Yishai, Jesse, had him bring all the sons that were there. None of them were the right one. And he goes, "You must have another son." And he kind of like paused. He goes, "Well, it's the boy that's in the field, da, 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 da." They brought him in, and immediately Samuel recognized David, just spiritually. This is the next king of Israel, at which point Nitzavit was brought in. But all those years that he was living just with his mother, had very little contact with the rest of his family. And whenever anything was bad that was going on, if anyone was accused of stealing in their community, he was always blamed. He was thought of as a black sheep. He was always maligned, but he spent time alone with God. And if you look at our history, so many of our great leaders started out as shepherds. That's and true. Being a shepherd puts one in a place where they're used to being alone, and they're used to thinking, and they see God's presence all around them, more than being in a city and seeing it kind of like blurred and distorted. So why do I mention Nitzavit? They say oftentimes all of us want to be stars of our show, but there is a lot to be said about playing a supporting role in life. Mm-hmm. She was playing that supporting role, but she was the roots that created the dynasty of King David and the kingship of the Davidic dynasty.
That's true. Very interesting.
So one of the things that I gained from this, and I'm always looking for inspiration, is, yeah, it's true. We oftentimes don't get to choose our roles in life. Our circumstances are not what we always choose, but there's one choice we have all the time: how well we play the role we've been given.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely up to us. Yes. So Nitzavit was marginalized for years, but she got to choose how well she played that role. And she was a star at playing a supporting role and created a star, not just for the Jewish people, but all the peoples of the world. Look at David and are reading his Psalms to this day.
That's right. Wow, that's beautiful. By the way, I have to say, we have been watching House of David on Netflix with my husband, and they actually do a really great job at depicting David's story. Exactly how you just explained, how Samuel came to anoint David. They show all that in this Netflix series. So if anybody wants to see it, I do recommend it. It's very nice.
Also, for kids, there's a great animated movie out now that I saw recently called David. And it's the
Oh,
same story with really wonderful animation.
oh, I'll have to show that to my kids. Hmm.
Yeah, it's great.
Wow. Okay. That's great. And so how do we tie that into the upcoming holiday of Shavuos?
This is how we tie it in. Everyone, every woman, man, people of all ages are looking for validation,
Hmm.
looking to feel recognized and acknowledged for who they are. But it doesn't happen immediately in life. One of the hardest things living in a time like ours, where many of us have become accustomed to instant gratification, it's a
Oh,
blessing
yes.
and a curse, right? And yet we don't get that instant gratification oftentimes in our life path, in our profession, even amongst ourselves, in the way we look at ourselves. We're constantly going up and going up and going down. And then there's this new buzz phrase, you're enough. We hear it
Hmm.
all the time when it has to do with women. Are you familiar with it? You're enough.
Yeah, yes, I've heard that.
But it isn't a Jewish concept. In fact,
Hmm.
it's the antithesis of a Jewish concept
Mm.
because we're not enough. We may feel, okay, today was a good day. Today, I may have lived according to my beliefs. I lived with authenticity. But tomorrow, you start all over again with a whole new set of circumstances, challenges that you don't know are going to happen. So every single day, we have to try to live according to what we believe in, right, within our mind, so that it harmonizes outwardly with how we speak, how we respond. And if we don't, then there's this concept of cognitive dissonance, where there is a total cutoff between the way you act or the way you respond quickly. And that's not me. How could I have done that? How could I have lost it like that?
Yeah.
So Judaism is honest. It's telling us we're not finished. We're not here just to go through life. We're here to grow through life.
Mm.
And as long as you're alive, unless you're dead and you just have a flat line, Judaism is not to be enough. Judaism is to always strive every day to be able to reveal and actualize more of who you are.
Wow. That's very well put. I love that. And I also want to tie that into another topic that you speak about quite a bit is being a victor, not a victim.
Yes.
Because, my husband actually has been saying this to our kids ever since they were little, and a couple of them are still little. But, one thing is to say it, but how do you cultivate that mindset?
I'll tell you, Yulia, living in Israel, I'm surrounded by great women in such a big way because in the past 3 years, there are many people who have lost children, who have lost husbands, fiancés, sons. It goes on and on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they speak. I find it just amazing that women who have suffered such trauma, including the hostages who were released and so on, and have lost so much, they don't focus on what they've lost. They don't focus on what they lack. They redirect it, repurpose, redefine, and they return. I like to think about all of the words that begin with the prefix re.
Hmm.
Re is implying that you once were someplace,
Mm-hmm.
revisit, right?
Yeah.
Repurpose, redefine, return, meaning you're turning. It
Hmm.
also goes to the concept of Shabbat, because
Uh-huh.
within the Hebrew word Shabbat are the root letters shin vet, which is shav, which means return. So life is a constant returning to your source. It's like if you've ever seen water that's a loop. It's going back to the source and then it's going out again, and it's a constant loop. It's vibrational. So to develop this idea even more, we are constantly here to return to who we are and to discover what that is and to actualize it the best we can.
Wow. That's amazing.
Does that resonate?
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Well, then, can you actually expand a little bit on Shabbat? It's interesting that here in the United States, Trump recently announced that he's calling for National Shabbat. And
Wow.
so many Jews here were just amazed at at these news that we saw. And I think it's wonderful that Trump has been supportive of the Jewish community, of the Jewish people. But let's talk a little bit about Shabbat and why it's so important for the Jewish people and really for anyone. I see actually on social media a lot of, especially women, that post about converting to Judaism and how much they appreciate the gift of Shabbat.
That is so true. Personally, I don't know how anyone can survive without keeping Shabbat. There's a difference in life between surviving and thriving, being a victim, as you said, and being a victor. Because during the week, in small amounts and sometimes in great amounts, we feel victimized by our circumstances to the extent where it distorts our self-image of who we really are. And Shabbat allows and invites us to return. Every week, we have the opportunity to visit an island in time and recharge. Imagine if we couldn't recharge all of our technical devices. You'd see the case of your phone, you'd see your computer, but it has no vitality. It's lost its ability to really function as it should. So how much more so a human being? We're victimized by the circumstances of modern life. And in order to be a victor, we have to be able to recharge on a regular basis. But what does that mean? Oftentimes, many uneducated Jews who have never experienced truly what Shabbat is will focus on what they call restrictions. The can'ts, you can't do that. But those are in place to protect what we can do. The purpose of Shabbat is to distance yourself for that particular time, cognitively and mentally, from all of the things you do during the week that require one to feel that they are not complete. We have to acquire more. We have to strive for more. We have more things on our to-do list that have to be checked off. We have to shop more, buy more, watch more, consume more. There's no end. And we start to turn our wheels without knowing that there's a destination where we're going. So from a Torah perspective, the entire week, every day of the week is leading us one day closer to the ultimate, the peak of the week spiritually, is Judaism is called Shabbat, returning to where we should be. And while we're there, using it, utilizing it, for example, on Shabbat, one of the things that we aren't supposed to do is to watch television. Duh. I think that speaks for itself. It's an escape in a way, and we need that, and we can enjoy it during the week. We don't go shopping. We don't talk on the phone. We don't look at our screens because we're all addicted to all of that. And the fact that we are told we can't do that thing is to enable us to focus on doing exactly what we should be and what we need to renew and repurpose ourselves for the week to come. And what is that? We connect to our Creator. We learn Torah, which is a real big recharge that puts you in the right path, especially when you've been a little misaligned. You become aligned with who you are, your true purpose, your core. You learn coping skills from great leaders, men and women throughout our history that are what they've gone through. Why is Torah relevant? Because even though we're so technologically progressive today, technology is way ahead of character development and human development. The very same character flaws and challenges that the characters in the Torah experienced thousands of years ago, hate, lack, envy, jealousy, competition, war, still going on. Like it's as if we keep starting over and over again, and we've never been able to get past that human urge. So since the urges and the instincts of humanity have never been upgraded, it speaks to us today.
You're
It
right.
never stops speaking to us. And today, especially in a modern age like ours, it speaks even clearer.
You're absolutely right. And so many people are concerned with AI taking over and what is this going to do to our human relationships. And I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking, I'll be okay because going to shul, going to Torah classes, communicating, this will never be replaced by AI.
Never.
Spirituality is here to stay and nothing will take over it.
Just look outside, and I'm sure you do. You go to restaurants, you see people, everybody is looking at their screen.
Yeah.
The screen has become like part of your body, you know?
Oh, yes.
And especially when you see people out at a restaurant, I've seen families out, everybody's looking at their screens till the food comes. This is common. One of the beauties of Shabbat, and they say it's a restriction. No, it's freedom.
Yeah.
People are connecting to one another face to face, just as it's spiritual time connecting to our Creator and to ourselves and strengthening the relationship we have with God. We're also building and strengthening the relationships that people have with one another, parents, children, spouses, friends. There's real connecting time, and we're not connecting over just small talk. Oh, so one of the things that we're directed and told not to do on Shabbat is even have conversations that have to do with the weekday. You're not going to sit at the Shabbat table and enjoy the meal talking about sports. You're not going to talk about who won the game. You may, and it's not that you're doing anything wrong, but you're not doing what's right. You're missing the mark. You're not going to just talk about politics. You're going to try to have conversations that go way beyond that and connect us to who we are, our thoughts, how we're growing. And one of the best ways to do that is to talk about something like the weekly Torah portion. One of the things that I highlight in the book I wrote, Making It Relevant, is short, very readable chapters, 2 to 3 pages, that give us very direct, practical ways of connecting to 1 or 2 thoughts that build us and strengthen us internally, spiritually, so that we will never become victims of life, that we have the skills, we have the mindset to recognize that even when there is a descent in life, when we feel we're having a setback, it's really an ascent. It's a setup. And we become stronger. We just don't fall apart. We recognize God's messages to us, spiritual text messages, if you will. And we know how to respond.
That's wonderful. Again, I also wish I had heard all this knowledge when I was younger.
Me too.
But I guess now I get to teach my children, right? I'm
Yes, yes.
I'm so happy that they're actually growing up in in a Jewish environment, and they know who they are. They recently had their naming ceremonies. They received their Hebrew names. We didn't do it at birth because back then I didn't know
Wow.
about all these traditions. So my daughter was 5 and my son was 8 when we gave them the Hebrew names. But I just feel like it's like our rabbi said, we gave them a new channel of this divine connection energy that hopefully will assist them on their path in life. And hopefully they will become spiritual more than me, even.
There's no mistakes. The way your life has been developing was customized and orchestrated for you. There's a beautiful saying in the Talmud that says, Bishvili nivra ha'olam, which means the world was created for me, but that's a mistranslation.
Hmm.
The word in Hebrew, shvili, is my path. My path was individualized, customized only for me. And it's through the long and winding road that leads us to where we're meant to be, to actualize our purpose of why we're here. It couldn't be changed any other way. But the way we developed through that process is something that only you and I can share with others. So your journey to your children is going to strengthen them in a way that nobody else is, because of what you have worked so hard to achieve. And even though you're giving them, in a sense, so much already that you weren't able to have, they're also going to have their own journey, which will be apart from yours, but you're giving them incredible gifts, spiritual gifts. And
That
as
gives
far
me
as the name is
goosebumps.
concerned, the Hebrew name is the Hebrew word for a soul. As you know, you probably learned this, but I'll repeat
Mhm.
it. The Hebrew word for soul is neshama,
Yes.
soul. And within that word is the Hebrew word for name, Shem.
Oh, that's true. Huh. Wow.
So the soul is connected to God through the Hebrew name. Now, how could that be? Why wouldn't it be Susie or Betsy or
Right.
Linda? But
Huh.
why would it be Chaya and Leah and Sarah or whatever your Hebrew name is? It's because the Hebrew letters themselves
Hmm.
are they are the spiritual DNA, the spiritual building block of the world that we're living in. And it's not a one-time thing that happened. It's happening every second. So our souls are connected to the creator that's creating us every single second anew. And our connection, the connector, is the Hebrew name. Just like we have to charge our phone and the cord is connecting and charging. The name, it may not be something that's physical, but
Yeah.
it's a spiritual energy.
Wow. That's incredible.
But you know this, and we all know this. Innately, we know it. We just have to keep brushing off the dust.
Exactly. So true. Wow. Okay. I think we spoke on a few of the topics that we had in mind. Can I ask you, is it easier to be Jewish in Israel? Is
Yes
it
and no.
yes and no?
No, I'll tell you the yes part. Especially if you live where I live in the area of Yerushalayim,
Hmm.
it's so palpable. I mean, the thought of keeping kosher here doesn't exist hardly because there's so many kosher places.
Yes.
And it's so easy. So one of the things I have enjoyed, but of course, this exists in New York City and Brooklyn and Miami, not like in
Sure.
Cleveland where there's not as many
Yeah.
choices. So it's a no brainer as far as that's concerned, but it's also such a wonderful feeling to think that your life is normalized.
Hmm.
And the holidays and Shabbat
Mm.
are
Yeah.
just built into the fabric of life here. Where I live, when it's time to light candles, you hear a loudspeaker through the whole community playing
Oh,
Shalom Aleichem, or some of the songs, and you just feel everything closes at a certain
yes.
time, and the palpable energy of people shopping and buying things for Shabbat and Shabbat Shalom. It's not just something that you share with your family or the people that go to your synagogue. It's across the board. Now, some of the challenges here are the same challenges that you would have in any Jewish community. There's different levels of observance, right?
Yes.
And oftentimes, unfortunately, one of the things that divide us are our political thoughts at this point. And there's no difference between that here or in America. But one thing that is missing, I'll give you a little example. When we first moved into the house we live in, we have grapevines here and we have a lot of fruit trees. So there was a little girl who is our neighbor, and she saw me picking some grapes. She asked me in Hebrew, "Do you have grapes in America too?" She's just 6. I go, "Yes." She goes, "Do you have apples? Do you have peaches?" You know, she wanted to go through everything that was there. I go, "Yes." She goes, "But I bet they don't have Kedusha like they have it here in Israel." Meaning
Oh.
Kedusha is this enlightened, the sanctity of the land. It said that God's eyes, metaphorically, are always on the land of Israel, and that the land itself has a life, all of itself, that it's saturated with what we call Kedusha, sanctity. And that's why this is considered a holy place.
Well,
That's
beautiful.
missing. Yeah. But you can get used to it. And it isn't good to take anything for granted at any place, anywhere.
Yeah. And then can I also ask you for some advice?
Sure.
So
I can't say it will be what you're looking for, but I'll try.
okay, so my kids currently go to a public school, and it's a really great public school. We live in Solon.
Solon.
Yeah, it's considered one of the top schools in the United States. Academically, I have no complaints. However, of course, I do want my children to develop more spiritually. So I've been toying with the idea of, sending them to a private Jewish school. But then my husband, he comes out with a really great point too. He says that our children will always be part of a larger society, and we can't sort of shelter them from the things that I would like to shelter them from. Like my son, who's 9 almost, his peers are playing all these video games and using, sometimes foul language and this and that. And, the teenagers, the way they dress and the things they do, the drugs and this, that's not the path that I want for my children. But my husband says that it's up to us at home to educate them to make the right choices along the way. But you know how hard it is for especially preteens and teenagers not to follow the crowd. How do you raise children that don't follow the crowd? Because, we're not orthodox.
Right, I get it. I get it. That's a crucial, loaded question. There's more than one way to look at it. I would strongly urge that every Jew in Cleveland, anywhere in the United States, send their child to a Torah observant day school. But you can't rely on the school to educate your child. You can't rely on teachers to give your child the moral compass and to imbue them with the inner strength that they need and the identity that will allow them to be a strong, knowledgeable, positive, proud Jew. It has to come from the home and from the example. But here's the big but. The media and our social environment is overwhelming. And it's very difficult to compete with it. One of the most important things that gives us some kind of defense against its overwhelming impact is to try to have a very strong, loving bond with children. But since every child is a different child, and I also have to say that you're a different parent with every child. You're not going to have the same parenting skills with each child because each child is going to require us to go deep inside ourselves to try to parent in a way that is conducive to that child's set of needs. There are pluses and minuses. It's huge. It's overwhelming. Plus, I assume you and your husband work.
Of
You have
course.
jobs. So we're not always there for our children. Therefore, who they choose to be their friends is extremely important. And in the world that you're living in right now, I truly believe that children need to be insulated until they go away to college and the social group and the environment. And if you choose the right Jewish day school, the social life there is essential to who they develop into. Now, that being said, if you have your children in public school, it's absolutely crucial that they are in youth groups like NCSY,
Yes.
which could also have a huge positive impact. There's plenty of very strong identifying Jews who went to public school. And Jewish day schools did not always exist. And even during those times, great Jews came out of public school. However, today, we can't compare to what was once. Today, we're also faced with things that are beyond our control. What is really influencing our children, we don't know, because everything's done quietly with earbuds.
Yeah.
So we don't know who they're texting, what their friends are saying to them. The most important thing I think we can do is to try to align ourselves with people that are like us and people that are ahead of us. I think it's really important to have friends that are growing alongside you, but also have mentors that you befriend that are way ahead of you. We really need people that we would emulate through every stage. Like I remember my kids are grown now, but when I chose a school for my daughter, and I went to public school, and it was fun, and maybe I wouldn't have turned out as well had I gone to a Jewish Beis Yaakov. I don't know. My journey, as I said, is my journey.
Yes.
But one of the things that I really looked at for my daughter was what senior girls look like, how they dress, and what they are. I didn't really want my daughter having a boyfriend at 14, 15, even 16. I always would say to her, you want to avoid having your heart broken if there isn't nowhere for you to go with the love you feel for someone. And there's no mature vessel to hold the love you have right now. So it's going to crack. And then you're hardened and you're hurt. You can't focus. So I was looking for seniors, what's it like in a high school where girls are not just, sure, girls are still looking at boys. That's being a normal person. But in the Jewish day schools, there's just much healthier, more refined, and more authentic ways of navigating being a teenager. It's more hands-on. It's not just academic. Hopefully, if you're in the right school, the rebbeim and the teachers really are very involved in your child's life, and you become a part of that world. I think there's no guarantees. There's people who have sent their children to the finest Jewish day schools, and for whatever reasons their kids choose when they leave to throw it all away.
Yeah.
There's kids who have come through public schools. Well, look at your journey. Yeah. You chose this on your own with no pressure from parents. Yeah. But that being said, I think we always want to have the best chances. What are the percentages in the world I'm living in today for getting the results that I hope to see in my children so that they don't have to struggle like I did? I want to give them a foundation, and that you can't give them alone. You need a whole community and a Jewish day school and your synagogue. And also, if you are aligned with a particular synagogue, like you are with Chabad, and many people send their kids to public school, but there has to be a social place that's outside of school where they can express their Jewish identity connected to Torah, that's apart from school. So they're not going to really be like the kids at school. Yes. Therefore, let them be in a more concentrated environment that's conducive for growing and actualizing a Jewish young person into who they should be.
Yeah.
In fact, another point, today's public schools, as we know, are filling our kids up with values and identities that actually could be the antithesis of what parents really want. And it will go against everything you work so hard with your husband to create in your home. And you don't know, you can't monitor what they're hearing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the answer that I have, there is no question they should be going to a Jewish day school. And the strongest one that you feel that you could live with. Not just a cultural Jewish day school where Judaism is a cultural thing, but something where it's living, where they're growing. And even if it's a little more than you are right now, you'll grow together as a family.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's been sort of on our minds too. And my husband, he's mentioned several times, he's afraid that our kids will become so much more observant than we are, that they won't later in life will not visit us, will not, you know, eat in
Never,
our
never,
kitchen.
never. But I can understand how he feels, all right? But not if you do this as a family.
Yeah, it's hard, Katia, because my husband and I were on this journey together. We've been growing steadily. We've made a lot of progress. But let me tell you, we're the only ones from our friend group. The only ones. Do you know how hard that is? When our friends want to go out on Friday night and we say, sorry,
Sure.
we can't. When they want to invite us out to eat and we say, well, can't eat that, we apologize.
I've been where you
But
are. I know
yeah,
what that is. And I know plenty of people. So this is my strong suggestion. Why live a hard life when you could live a life that isn't that hard? Not that you're going to leave your friends, but you need to make new friends. And you need to expand your social circles to include people that are exactly where you are. And where you'll meet these people is where they are, and socialize with them. You can see the friends you've had all these years at a different time.
mhm.
And you need to make friends with people that Shabbat is their way of life. It's the language they speak with you in common. It isn't pleasant to feel like you're a misfit. You don't fit in anymore.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't even have to discuss it with them that much, because all of it's going to do is to create a sense of distance. You don't want that. And at this stage you're at right now, you may not be able to know the words inside to express what you're feeling, so that you're not ready yet, I don't think, to influence your friends unless they want to be influenced. It's important first for you to put on in the plane, put on your
Your
mask
mask.
first and then your
Yeah.
child. Yeah.
Yeah.
So first, you and your husband are in a state of growth,
Yeah.
and you have to grow at your own pace. But if you want to grow, you have to surround yourself with people that are like-minded or even ahead of you.
Mhm. Yeah.
How does that sound?
Oh, it sounds great. Thank you. It
I
sounds
don't
really
say it's
great.
going to be easy, Yulia,
No, I know.
but it doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't take that long to not make new friends, but to expand your
Yeah.
social network.
No, and definitely going to Chabad every Saturday, we have made a lot of connections. Perhaps we're not close friends yet, but I can definitely see how we're starting to become part of this world. And, Chabad of Solon, most people are like us. They're more traditional at this point. Some of them are also growing and learning, but most are not Orthodox that attend the services. So it's a good environment for us. And I think it's very conducive to our growth. So,
Wonderful. And again, these are your choices. They're not,
mhm.
mine, but I've been where you are.
Yeah.
And, it's a journey.
Yeah. Well, I really, really enjoyed speaking with you today, Katia.
Thank
It's
you,
been a
Julia.
tremendous pleasure. If there's anything you would like to add to my listeners, anything
Yes, one more thought.
inspirational, yes.
Sure. Inspiration is fleeting. what we take from inspiration, if we're smart, is the resolve to make a change and do it quick while that inspiration is with you. Because if we don't act upon inspiring word or thought or lecture, it just goes by the wayside. So what I'd like to say to you is, I'm sure I can see that you value authenticity. All of us do. And we don't value cognitive dissonance. We don't want our thoughts and our beliefs to not be represented in the way we live our lives, correct? And as we learn more, we are not the same person. Why would we want to be? It's positive to be growing, but don't keep yourself in soil that is not conducive to your growth.
Yeah, makes sense.
Bloom where you're planted, but that means to be all in.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
My pleasure. Yulia, you're just very lovely. And I'm very impressed with everything you're saying in your podcast.
Thank you so much, Katia. I will definitely be reading your book. I'm very excited to read it. And I hope to keep in touch.
It's available on Amazon.
Wonderful.
In Cleveland, I know that it's available at Frank's Hebrew Bookstore and at Jacob's Grand Judaica on Taylor Road, and Amazon.
Easy. Very accessible. Yeah. Thank you so much, Katia.
I want to wish you a meaningful and uplifting Shavuot for you and your husband. And the beauty, again, my husband and I have been growing together as a couple. You just can't be two separate islands. You have to grow together. I really urge that you should find something you could learn together that interests you both, that's Torah oriented. And each of you can prepare something to share with the other, even if it's 10 minutes, a 10-minute conversation, not long.
Yeah.
You could do it on Shabbat. You could do it when you have a coffee break with your husband, something so that you can make sure that you are staying connected in your Torah growth as well, in your spiritual growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to be in the same lane.
Yes, that we are. I'm sure he will appreciate listening to this podcast. He always listens to.
Sure. So Yulia, thank you very much for inviting me. And I really found our conversation really uplifting.
Thank you so much, Katia. Same.